TIS is the best. TIS is the best.
All right, welcome in, guys. Episode 4. Today we are joined by Jackson and Ford. My name is Max.
I'm Crew T.
And thank you guys for coming in. We're going to be talking about oil and gas recruiting. Both of you guys are going to Houston, kind of focused on that. But for the listeners, could you give a quick rundown on who you are? What do you do? And how did you end up in the position you are today?
Yeah, 100%. I can start. Thank you guys so much for having us. Me and Ford are definitely very happy to be here. We've watched the past few podcasts, and they've been super amazing, and it's cool to see you guys creating this from scratch and from the ground up. But yeah, my name is Jackson Late. I'm a junior here at USC. I'm used to saying that for interviews. I'm studying finance, and yeah, I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio, so kind of a far ways away. And I kind of just fell into the energy sector, honestly. I had some family. My grandparents actually worked in a gas company back in the day, so I had some family ties to the sector. And then after my freshman summer, I was able to intern at a venture capital firm that focused on clean tech. So that kind of got me into the energy sector as a whole. And then the fall of my sophomore year, I was interning online at a renewable investment bank. So that kind of just threw me completely into the energy industry. Ended up recruiting for it for the summer of 2026, and I'll be going to Evercore to intern in their oil and gas division.
Thanks for the intro, Jackson. That was pretty amazing. I'm Ford. I'm a COO of TIS. I'm a junior. I recruited Houston last year. I'll be going to a bank called Intrepid Financial Partners. They're like a boutique. My reason is different from Jackson's. Why I wanted to recruit. I'm from Georgia, so I wanted to stay in the South. And I think our answers had some similarities with going to Houston is very cheap. Like it's compared to LA or New York, it's a lot more you can rent's cheaper. Cost of living is a lot better.
The taxes,
there's no state income tax. And it was just more like home to me. So that was the main point I emphasized while recruiting. But I also had to realize you are recruiting specifically for energy. So you do have to have some sort of interest. And I think over the recruiting process, I gained a lot of interest. And now I really want to do energy. And maybe even do futures trading for crude oil after. But yeah, that's background on me. Thanks for having us again. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us.
I really wanted to be on this podcast.
We're happy to have you here.
Ford's at every e-board meeting. He's like, yo, Max, when are we getting on?
I was texting Max, please get us on the podcast.
Yes, we made it happen.
Can you tell us a little bit more about your involvement with TIS and TFA during your recruitment process and how it helped you land your offers?
Yeah, 100%. I would say TFA was probably one of the main components of me getting an offer overall. So I wasn't in the leaders programs or anything like that. I was really focused on recruiting for consulting my entire freshman year and then going into my sophomore year. And then I talked to a few people who had recruited successfully for banking. They were like, hey, you're in these clubs. You have a higher GPA. You should probably try out for TFA. And I was like, okay. Tried to learn all the technicals, applied, ended up getting in. And it was one of the most helpful components of me getting an offer. I would say the best part of it is honestly just the people that you meet and that you're able to use as a resource. So my mentors, Trenton Lane and Kyle McIntyre, would mock me probably 2 or 3 times a week during the recruiting process. I was able to meet Ford, and he was the only other guy recruiting for oil and gas. So we talked basically probably every day, if not 2 or 3 times a day on the phone, kind of just talking through our recruiting processes and if we had interviews somewhere, kind of what to expect in those interviews, et cetera. So I would say, yeah, I got involved in TFA/TIS just this year, but it was instrumental in me getting an offer and meeting tons of resources at USC.
Yeah, I joined a little earlier. I joined in my freshman fall. But before I had no idea what banking was, and I knew I wanted to do something. And past director leader Rohan Varma helped me out with leaders, so shout out him. But yeah, leaders gives you everything, like Jackson said. And I think the biggest thing for recruiting, especially for oil and gas, was actually having Jackson. And also we had a really good person we could talk to. Amber was she recruited before us and was one of the only ones that actually did the whole Houston process. So we were able to talk to her, and we didn't get that without TFA. So that was really big. And then it just holds you accountable being in TFA. You have to, there's 60 other people that are also all trying to do the same thing as you. So it keeps you in check. And yeah, find someone like Jackson or just someone to keep you accountable, especially if you're recruiting the same industry like Houston, because it is very specific. You only know like you can't find this stuff online. Like you have to like talk to someone because it's very niche, especially from USC. Like there's not many resources from the West Coast.
Yeah, Amber in the pod in general was extremely helpful. Like I did not even know there was oil and gas specific text or technical questions until probably October and November, because Amber told us about them and sent us these Quizlets that she just had randomly found. And basically she sat down and gave us like a 2-hour lecture on everything that we need to know. So she was amazing to have, and it's kind of gate kept the information that you need to know for the interview. So having a person like her was very helpful.
How does recruiting look for oil and gas versus other industries? And can you give us like the landscape per se?
Yeah, I would say there's probably 3 differences between oil and gas recruiting and recruiting generalist. I would say the first is the timeline. So oil and gas kicks off, I would say, 2 to 3 weeks earlier than tech. And
it's one of the first. I'd
It's
say
like early
sure.
January, right?
I think it is
December
the first.
No?
Maybe this year it'll be late December, but for us, I remember sending an email to someone on January 8th and being like, hey, just want to reach out for a coffee chat. And they were like, yeah, all of our spots are already full. So they could have,
Yeah.
So
January 8th?
January 8th.
I
remember
heard,
the date, like,
I think it was it like JPM filled their class by the 15th or something?
Yeah. I had also emailed someone there, and they're like, okay, sorry.
So they fill it, like, apps open the first. They'll have first rounds, like, in like a week.
Next
I
And then
feel like
Super
on
Days in, like, a week.
LinkedIn, the first people I saw posting were like oil and gas in Houston.
It's like,
and I would see
damn.
like JPM, and then I'd like click on it and be like,
Yeah.
okay, they're doing Houston.
Yeah,
oil
like,
and
don't
gas.
freak out.
Right. I was like, oh my God, like, am I missing the timeline?
It was like RX and oil and gas.
Yeah.
was
Yeah,
like
okay,
early
yeah.
January. I
RX
remember being on the
goes
track
quick.
and I was like on LinkedIn. I was like, dang. Like,
It's ridiculous. Yeah, I was actually on the TFA trek, and I had to leave early to fly down to Houston for an interview, and that was January 22nd, I think. So it's like it's an extremely quick timeline, and you just need to be prepared for that timeline. So start networking earlier, start studying those technicals for oil and gas, and just overall a bit earlier. But in tandem with that, you're going to be done earlier. So there's pros and cons, and you kind of just have to see that through. Second, I would say, is the oil and gas questions that you need to know. I think more of it is kind of knowing just industry-specific stuff, so stuff that's going on in the news, kind of companies that you're following, deals that you're following, as opposed to just getting totally grilled on, oil and gas valuation models and stuff like that. And then third, I would say the culture is a little more, a little more like bro downish. It's a lot of people from Texas, and a little more Southern comfort. So I would say people are very nice there and genuinely interested in like talking to you. And I kind of didn't feel that in some other cities, but definitely felt that in Houston.
Yeah. I'd say that last part is true. Some people get like, they don't like Houston, and they have this bad reputation of the South. So like, check it out. But anyways, as the actual recruiting process, the best advice I got was from Sean Finney. He's a senior partner at Evercore, or senior advisor. He said just network with more than one bank. Like you need to network with all the banks at Houston, or not all of them, but like a good amount, because from USC, it's very challenging to convince someone that you want to do energy in Houston if you only say I'm recruiting at this bank, because then it seems like you're just going for the prestige or something. So don't just recruit for Evercore Houston. Like you got to recruit for other banks. And Jackson can tell you the same thing, because you had like super days at other banks that helped you get your Evercore offer, right? So I would say, and also like you want to talk with as many banks so you can learn about the industry more. And I think that's a big way, is using your chats to learn about oil and gas, especially if you don't really know much about it, because they know a lot and they'll tell you about it.
Yeah. I think coming from USC, honestly, if you have a good story coming from USC, it can honestly give you an edge, because they have thousands of kids from Rice, UT Austin, which are great schools, and like they play so well. Yeah, they play so well in Houston. And I think the problem is kids from USC only try to go to Evercore, only have like just a one-off or not as good of a story for Houston, because they're only recruiting for that bank, or they just haven't put that much thought into it. So if you can craft a really strong story about why you want to go to Houston and about your resume, I think you could honestly have really great placement out of USC, because it's unique.
I think that story part is the biggest thing. And that's what I was told, like at a lot of my interviews where I wanted to get the job and I didn't, was my story wasn't strong enough, because you got to think you're competing against someone from UT, and their dad was a petroleum engineer and their grandfather was a petroleum engineer. So it's like, why would I pick this USC student instead of this guy who definitely has an interest and he's grown up in it and he knows it. So like, that's who you're up against. So you need to first have a really good story. Like Jackson has a really good story. And like, we can help you with that as well if you're actually interested in doing that. But, and then just being like perfect, because you're up against like you're kind of at a disadvantage, I would say at an interview, but like actually networking, people will respond to you a lot. Like I had pretty good response rates for my emails because only 2 USC students are reaching out compared to like 100 UT Austin kids, right? So it's like easier. So it's like easier and harder at the same time.
Yeah.
You just got to be prepared, I'd say.
It was really funny. I would go into some of my interviews and tell them I'm from USC, and they're like, "Oh, do you know Ford Johnson?" Like I talked to him the other day, and I'm like, "What is this? Like, he's not the only other guy." But yeah, it was funny.
But like it's nice too, because like if you're competing for LA banks, like you have 20 USC kids going for 2 spots, but it's here like 2 USC kids going for like there's probably like 20. No, there's probably like 40 spots in Houston total combined, like for everything. Probably more than that, but like still.
Yeah, a bit more than that.
So what are some of the main shops that you recruit?
Or like how many shops?
Like how many shops are there?
Yeah, there's, like Ford was saying, there's tons of shops in Houston. I mean, every big bank is, I don't want to misspeak, but I think every big bank there. I know JPM, Goldman, Evercore, Moelis, Lazard, PWP, which is TP&H in Houston. It's their energy division.
Okay.
Stevens, there's tons of TD. Like I think there's literally every single bank in Houston. But yeah, it's way more limited spots. So I know my office, I think, takes 10 to 12 interns as opposed to 70 in New York. It's pretty big, but it's smaller than, New York. So yeah, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Ford, but basically every bank is there.
Yeah, there's like every bank, obviously some are better than others, like have better, more built out groups. But like some good ones, like Jeffries is really good there.
Yeah, Jeffries is amazing.
Like really, really good just on their energy. And they like work you really hard is what I've heard. RBC's pretty good. TPH, Piper Sandler. But then like your big names are all good there. Like Goldman and JP Morgan, Evercore are like probably the best 3 and
Barclays
Jeffries.
is good as well.
And Barclays, yeah. So there's a lot. And like it's compared to LA, like there's probably more spots honestly now because LA is going down. But maybe, okay, never mind. But yeah, just know there's a lot of spots. So like, don't feel like it can help you out. I think is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, that was pretty long-winded, but basically, yeah, every single bank is there, with the main being probably Jeffries, Goldman, JPM, Evercore, TP&H, and a few others.
Okay, interesting.
Do we want to hop into some more technical aspects?
Yes. So we do have a few leaders' kids who are interested in oil and gas.
Shout out to you guys,
Monte and Eker.
Amazing.
So some questions they sent in was just like, first one's like overview of what a NAV is, right? What is net asset value?
Yeah.
Kids kind of know you use it for oil and gas, but like why is it and how does it work different than like a DCF?
Yeah, so NAV, like you said, is net asset value. And like if you search up the description online, it's going to tell you it's the value of your assets minus liabilities. But in an interview, they're going to want a lot more than that. And so essentially when you use NAV, it's for an exploration and production company or an upstream company, which is essentially Diamondback Energy, Devon Energy, ConocoPhillips, all these companies that are going out and drilling into the ground to try to find oil or trying to find oil. And basically, do you want like a rundown of how you do it, or
sure? Like I don't know exactly how it works either.
We were 10 years old.
So like a lot of kids, when I first started learning about a NAV, I was just so overwhelmed because you search it up and it's like 20 steps to a NAV. But I would kind of break it down in interviews like, okay, first you're gonna track your reserves, see if they're proved, probable, possible, which is kind of the potential for them to actually come to fruition.
Okay.
Then you're kind of going to project out what you think you're going to get from those reserves. Then you also make projections for the price of oil that's tied to those reserves, and then projections for your costs, your CapEx, and your CapEx for like creating new wells, and your OpEx specifically just for the company in general. And then from there, you're going to discount those back. And I think then you subtract that and you add back like some unused acreage, which is basically like the unused amount of acreage left. That's kind of like
where you didn't drill.
Yeah, where you didn't drill.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's kind of how I would always break it down in an interview. So basically, the reason you use it is because you don't have like confirmed cash flows. It's going to be super volatile, and then your value is really in the assets that are underground. So kind of starting with that first is probably the most important.
So it's like almost a probability thing, right? You have like
the
potential oil wells. It's like which is a probable.
It's proved, probable, possible.
Exactly,
like
and you probably sign percentages to that.
Yep.
Okay, gotcha.
So when would you go about like using other oil and gas valuation methods? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, so I would say on the actual job, well, I don't know about the actual job, but I think the answer they want to hear is just for like upstream companies. So like this only applies really if they're drilling. because you don't know the price. I guess to expand on Jackson's, like you'll calculate out like how much production they have per year. So like the proved reserves, let's say that's for 25 years, then you can like see how much you'll produce until the well is dry and like there's nothing left, and then you'll estimate the price of like crude for all the 25 years and see like how much you're gonna make, or like what's the value of that asset, and then that's kind of how it is. So like you're doing it if you can't, essentially just for valuing kind of like an oil well almost, you would use like a NAV or like this type of valuation method. But I think on the actual job, NAV doesn't get used as much. I think they still use like the traditional methods. But like for interviews, they want you to know NAV. So like,
Yeah.
because I think when I talk with most people, they're like, or like EBITDA X or whatever with the exploration expense. I've heard like it rarely gets used, but you need to know it for an interview.
Yeah. Yeah, there's also a lot of multiples. Upstream is kind of the one that they're going to test you about in interviews the most. So like we were saying, the companies that are actually doing the drilling, and they'll ask you multiples. So EV over EBITDA X, which basically, takes out the exploration expense, and then EV over proved reserves or EV over production. Those are kind of some big ones that they'll ask, or price over NAV as well. Then there's there's basically 5 sub verticals of oil and gas. So there's upstream, which is drilling. There's midstream, which is the wells that the oil or the gas is moving through. Then there's downstream, which is like refinement and marketing. And there's oil field services, which is companies that kind of help the upstream and drilling companies with support on their wells and things of that nature. And then there's integrated super majors. So those are the companies that you guys probably, or everyone kind of knows about. So Shell, Chevron, those big names, and they do everything on the oil and gas value chain. So that's kind of how it's broken down. And then like midstream companies, they're kind of more like a industrials or normal company with contracted revenues. So they'll just be a DCF. So I've gotten asked that before in an interview, like, how would you value a midstream company? Because you're kind of thinking like all these different oil and gas valuation techniques, and it's just like, it's use a DCF. So that, and then I think downstream and OFS would probably use like reservation value or book value valuation and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'd say just upstream is like where you would use like the different valuation methodologies, just because the answer they're looking for is because the price of oil changes. Like it changes so quickly, so you can't use a DCF. Like you can't find your revenue, right? How would you find the revenue? Because that like the only thing they're selling is oil, and the price of that changes so constantly. So you can't easily project out. You can't do a DCF is what they're looking for. But for like a midstream, you can project it out because they're getting money just from people using their pipelines. So like they know how much, it's very stable. Like every year they're going to make a very similar amount of money because it's just like contracts that people are using to use their pipelines. So you could use a DCF for that. And then like Jackson said, for like oil field services and downstream, like, yeah, you can, I think it's just like this regular methodology.
So it's basically upstream, the one that's like separate.
That's what you're going to be most not grilled on, but they're going to ask you most about in interviews. Yes. It's kind of focusing on the upstream companies and the drilling companies. But like I was saying, there's so much more to oil and gas. But yeah, that's mostly what you're going to be tested on.
Let's move on to the next question. Sent in by one of the leaders' kids. What are some common ways we will see geopolitics play into valuations and processing deal, especially live events that can interrupt production in companies that have a more international presence?
Yeah, so geopolitics, I think it really just affects it from the price angle. Like I keep up with like the price a lot, and essentially it just creates a premium. So like right now, oil is trading pretty high because there's a lot of risk with Russia and Ukraine, and I think that's going to continue. But essentially, what they're looking for in this question is like, it's like the volatility thing. I think they just want to see that you can explain how like geopolitical events could affect oil prices, which could affect M&A. So like, you want to know like oil prices, you want them to be around like 70 to 80 for M&A to be like going crazy. Like that's what it was. I think it was in like 2023. That's when M&A was insane. Like that's what we probably all talked about in our interviews, was like an insane wave of consolidation because oil prices were in like the perfect spot. But like now, oil prices are like a little lower because Russia, like their oil can't get on the market. Jackson probably wants to come in on this because I'm just rambling right now. Sorry.
No, you're good. I think, that's a good response. But it's all about just supply and demand. So I think this year alone was like a good representation of how oil prices will move. think in March and April, OPEC Plus kind of released that there was going to be oversupply, and then prices went down because of that oversupply. And then in June, when the Israel conflict was going on and the Strait of Hormuz was threatened to be closed, prices went up. So if there's a war or if there's something that's going to impact the production and access of oil, those prices are going to rise. If there's something that gives, more supply and there's indicators that there's going to be more supply into the future, then prices are going to go down. Additionally, the economy will dictate that as well. So if interest rates go up, there's going to be more demand for oil and prices will go down, et cetera. So that's kind of a long-winded answer as well. But like Ford said, if prices are higher, more M&A will occur. If prices are depressed, it will probably be more restructuring that you're going to be doing.
To like an extent, like you, unless oil is like 100, there's like, it's like a sweet spot almost. So it's like, if like oil is 120, then you'll see then the demand's going to be a lot lower because no one wants to buy $120 oil, or like it's going to just like, it's so expensive, right? So like, or you think of like an airline, if jet fuel is super expensive, like they're going to want less of it. It's that type of thing. But yeah, so just know like $70 to $80 is a good price, like sweet spot for oil. And on that note, like right now, like the oversupply, there is an oversupply in the market. One way you can see this too, like the EIA posts weekly data on like inventories. And so if there's like a build to the inventories, that means like supply, there was an oversupply.
Mm-hmm.
So then prices should go down, and it's the reverse. So if there's a draw, if they take like the inventories goes down, then the price should go up because it signals that they're taking like stocks out from their like supplies and then using it because they need it. They don't have enough supply to fulfill the demand. So like there's things you can look at. That's why I like oil. Like it's supply and demand. That's like the basis of it is supply and demand. But then you throw in a war and that like completely changes the prices. And then you throw in like inflation rates and that also changes it. So it's like always constantly changing.
Very market dependent.
Super market dependent, but it's cool to follow. So like that's why you can talk about this in your Why Energy interview. Like it's like fast paced, like it's changing, very volatile.
Yeah. 100%.
Any other resources
Yeah.
kids should check out, like websites?
My favorite, look up Oil and Gas Network. There I have a podcast.
Okay.
There's like a bunch. Just search up Oil and Gas Network. There, I forgot one off like the actual name, but there's one that's weekly and
We'll insert it up
Yeah.
there.
But they have like 30 podcasts, but there's like 3 ones that are really good for oil. So
Yeah. There's the website I was always using during recruiting was literally just called oilprice.com. It's daily news on oil. Then if you have any clean tech or renewable interviews, Canary Media is an insane resource. It's a gold standard for renewable news. And I think Moelis has a clean tech group, and then some of the New York offices will have clean tech and renewables as well. And then there's a podcast called Energy Gang, which is they're pretty like hour-long debriefs on what's going on in the energy market. So those are like the 3 resources I use. And then just the Wall Street Journal energy section is pretty comprehensive as well.
Mm-hmm.
I have a few more too.
Yeah.
Heart Energy, they just post articles on like M&A usually, or like IP, like anything financially related to like oil and gas. And then RBC Richardson Barr is like, it's a website. It's like RBC, their Houston team puts out energy research. It's a good website. Just look at. So
I have to look at that.
Are there any like specific guides with like technicals on oil and gas?
I think that deserves.
We can provide. I can provide them.
Bomb on us.
I can
there's
provide them.
there's a
Ford
breaking
said you
into
can provide them.
Link in the description.
Link in this
Actually, I
if
don't
you
know.
want. Like, there's only like 90 questions, and we got asked maybe like not like we didn't get asked many of them, to be honest. Like 4, maybe 5. Like I didn't like actual energy specific texts. I didn't get asked many.
Yeah, there's like a breaking into Wall Street guide that has
Yeah.
like a pretty comprehensive overview of like the questions that you could be asked. Like Ford said, I personally didn't get like grilled into the weeds on specific energy knowledge. It was more just the technicals that we all had to learn, and then it would be a few at the end going into the specific text. But yeah, there's that document in the show notes.
Like what would help the most, like, yeah, you do, if you learn all the text, you're fine. I think what like hard questions you actually might get asked in Houston interviews are like, what energy, or like from upstream, midstream, or downstream, which sector would you invest in and why? And then I think they want you to be able to talk about like energy, because they just want to see if you know about it. And it's really clear to see if you know or you just read an article. So it's like, would you want to answer that like upstream, midstream, or downstream? Like right now, why? What would you choose?
Oh, you're asking me?
Yeah.
Or-
Well,
or
because I
saying,
mean,
like,
I
in
know
an interview question. Yeah, I mean, I would say midstream
Right.
just because of AI. I mean, that's pretty basic, but yeah, I think that is good. It's more industry knowledge, like we were saying before. So staying up to news. They would always ask about like an energy company that you're following. Yeah, what's going on in the energy markets, where you think it's going to go, stuff like that. So like Ford said, more of just like your general knowledge, and they can tell if you're making stuff up on the spot. Yeah,
I
that's good.
want. The hardest question I got asked was, "Where is the Uinta Basin?"
The what?
The Uinta Basin.
Where is that?
Where is that? Texas?
It's in Utah.
Okay. Why is that a special basin?
It's just I didn't know it.
They-
I said
okay.
Colorado. It's close.
But they're just trying to test. Like,
Yeah.
how,
Yeah,
like-
yeah.
How deep do you know everything?
I think they can like that was at RBC. Well, I hope I can say this. But anyways, yeah. So like I think like you said it's like more like culture. The culture is like more bro type. I think
Yeah.
in the interviews it can kind of be like they might grill you a little, kind of, but that's just bank to bank. So I don't know.
So for any kids that are like on the fence about oil and gas, let's say they're thinking about, I don't know, like SF Tech versus oil and gas. Like,
Yeah.
what would you say to that kid to like, put them onto like the oil side?
Yeah. I personally think that you could recruit for both at the same time. I don't think that's a bad option. I think always keep your options open. But if you're between the fence, and if I had to give a pitch for oil and gas, I would kind of say what we were talking about before. Coming from USC, you're going to have I think a slight advantage if you can really have a convincing story, and if you are genuinely interested in the experience. Like Ford was mentioning, 40 kids in TFA are going to be shooting out applications to those banks, so your competition is really increased for Menlo Park, SF, New York, LA. So I think you kind of get a slight advantage there. And then as we talked about before, you can get kind of in the weeds about oil and gas specific stuff, but I think what you should take away from this is it's a pretty complex but super interesting industry that offers tons of nuances, as like similar to tech and all these other industries that people might draw to because they're intuitive and they hear more about in the news. But I think oil and gas is going to be incorporated in the future, and it's definitely something to look at if you're interested.
I'd say I always wanted to say this, but if you're working in LA or New York, you're working 12% of the time for free, and if you come to Houston, you don't have to do that.
Taxes.
Yeah.
So
Uncle
that's
Sam.
that's what I would say. But also, Jackson said, yeah, you should probably do like both. I would say you can. I mainly did Houston, but I know you also recruited industrials a little bit, and I did too. So it's like at the end of the day, you just want to play. So shoot out
Yeah.
as much as you can, different places. Don't fully commit Houston, but like you have to prioritize it, obviously, but still have your options open. Cast a wide net.
What's your guys' recruiting hot take? It's like throw
That's a
out
good
anything.
question.
That is a good
Most
question. You wanna go first?
most controversial take, or maybe not controversial.
But
but like,
hot take.
yeah, hot take.
Oh, I can't say that.
Jackson.
Oh, is it
Anything.
cheating? Mine, I don't know if this is really a hot take, but I would just say, I don't know what's going on to my left.
Ford can't say that.
Okay, Ford got barred from speaking. But I would just say, just be overly persistent. I would say I don't know if this is really a hot take, but it was something that I wish someone would have told me during the recruiting process. I would get off the phone with someone, and I didn't think they liked me, or the call didn't go as well as I thought because they had just worked 100 hours and they're super tired, so they weren't giving me like the best responses.
Mhm.
And I would like be scared to follow up, or I would think like this is a lost contact, I'm gonna throw this in the trash. But then when I did follow up with them, it sometimes was my best connection, and would go on to getting me an interview or end up getting me an offer. So I would say just be persistent. These people are busy, so you can kind of be annoying in a way and send them multiple follow-up emails. And I think if you do that over a elongated period of time, it'll end up working out in your favor.
I think that applies to literally anywhere you're
Anywhere.
recruiting.
Yeah.
It's like
Like,
sports. You got to flush
yeah.
it, right?
Yeah.
Your life could change tomorrow, and you have
Right.
to be ready to interview like in 24 hours.
Nothing's personal in banking.
Yeah,
literally.
nothing. That's what I had to go over the hump, because I would always take the phone call first. I'd be like, oh my God, this
Right.
guy, like, he hated me. This was the worst call of my life.
Right.
And then it was like,
On the
okay,
other
he
side,
actually
they're
was-
working like a horrendous work
Yeah,
week.
yeah.
Yeah. Ford,
I
do you have
got
a
a
one that you can say?
So
PG version for it.
yeah, no, this is different now. Luke Tadros, shout out Luke Tadros.
Shout out Luke.
He
I
doesn't
think
mess
it's
with
Hopefully he'll be
podcasts,
on the
though.
podcast
He will
one
be
day.
on the podcast.
No,
I can't remember exactly what he said, but it's like in the actual interview, it's for Super Days.
Mm-hmm.
The person you just met doesn't know you, so you have to tell them everything about you in like 30 minutes. Like for me at the end, that was hard because like, I don't know, he was just really good at Super Days and his answers were really good. but also like you have to treat an interview like I think tell me about yourself is probably the most important. That's my hot take. Tell me about yourself is the most important.
Yeah.
Because it's the first interaction, and I think they make their decision of you within the first 2 minutes, and then it's like everything else they're probably zoning out. They don't care what you're talking about. They like to tell me about yourself and like how you present yourself in the beginning, and like maybe not exactly what you say, but how you say it is the most important for any interview.
Yeah, I agree. I heard a quote from Anthony Munoz, who was a player for the Cincinnati Bengals. He said, "Master the mundane." So I think just like
wow.
bar. I think that like just having a strong grasp on like tell me about yourself, why Houston, why energy. Like, I mean, walk me through a DCF. Just anything like that is gonna set you apart because I mean, some people would know those answers, but if you can perfect them, like that's those behavioral questions are gonna come first, and you're already gonna be hitting on a strong foot.
That's why everyone says behaviorals are more important.
Yeah.
Also, just with like doing interviews, like being calm. Like I feel like so many kids like aren't calm or like they'll show their nervousness. Like we're all nervous. Like no one's calm in a banking interview, but just
100%.
acting like you're calm, they'll be like, yeah.
Ford, how do you get over that nervousness?
I would say what I was gonna say is like once you got an offer and you were trying to get your second offer, it's so easy, right?
Yeah.
And I think
100%.
the reason is not because you have the offer, but I think you're more relaxed after you have that offer. So if you can, someone told me like go in like you already have the offer. It's really hard when you have like you could go 4 super days without getting an offer, but you have to go in with that mindset, I think.
Or sorry to cut you off. One thing I did was when you're showering at night, my last 1 minute shower, I turn it cold as you can.
Really?
Your heart rate immediately goes up, but you have to force yourself to like.
And then you would repeat your interview questions during that.
No, I wouldn't do that. But in my head, I would say that's what I would have done. I was just thinking like, okay, pretend I'm interviewing right now. I'm forcing myself to calm down. I'm like, because the cold water is gonna like evidently like shock your body, right?
Yeah.
But that's something I did for sports too. I was like, I'm gonna try it for banking. So like,
wow.
you just gotta train
This
yourself.
That's a hot take.
Kruti, what's yours?
Oh, I don't know. I was very superstitious during recruiting.
Really?
Oh my God.
Green
I got
suit?
so superstitious. It was literally same suit, same hairstyle, same jewelry, call my parents in the same order.
No way.
Yeah. I
Really?
got like, it was bad. And my
I
mom was,
low-key did that too.
yeah.
Really?
I had a gray and navy suit. First interview, I took the gray suit because it was like new. I was like, I'm gonna look fresh, right?
Yeah.
Got cooked. I was like, now we're going back to the blue suit all the way.
suit.
Yeah,
always.
no. I was so superstitious. I was like, if I don't do this the right way, like
That's
it's not gonna go
hilarious.
well. But
That's hilarious.
and it works. So
I would always wear the same dress socks. Like that was my
Oh, yeah.
superstition.
Hey, you washed them at least.
Oh, of course I washed them. I washed them.
it's like sophomores listening will probably be like, they sound crazy, but like when you get
These
into
people are
it,
weird.
yeah,
Understand
People start
eventually.
tweaking hard.
Yeah, it's an interesting time.
Yes.
that's why you need people around
Can
you.
we talk about that now, or should we like?
Well,
The what?
Well, like I think there's
we
like
can talk about it.
Yeah, the floor is yours.
This is,
okay,
yeah.
let's go. So like during recruiting, I feel like in everyone's recruiting journey, there's gonna be a time where you're like, I'm not gonna place. I'm done. I'm cooked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you just got to be able to talk to people, and I think back to that point about TIS and TFA, like you having someone to talk to, and you're like, I ruined this interview. I'm not gonna place. Why did I spend all this time recruiting? Like I should have just done. Like what am I doing? You needed someone to talk to, and I think having like first
a therapist, bro.
Yeah,
like-
essentially.
My mentors were my therapists.
Because
Like
they've
I
done
can,
it before. Yeah.
I've called them at 3 a.m. Like shout out to them for picking up my calls.
Yeah. I agree.
Well,
Some people will be cutthroat, but yeah, everyone. If you're just nice to each other, it'll be
Yeah.
good.
Be nice.
It'll be a fun process.
Help each other out too.
Yeah.
mhm.
Late night Levy sessions, bro.
Yeah, us and Tadros were in
And
here all the time.
Todd, you were there.
Well, thank you so much, Ford and Jackson,
Yeah.
for joining us. We really appreciate everything. I'm sure the kids will love listening to this podcast. And
Any last words? Advice?
yeah, any last words?
Pieces of wisdom?
I would say don't write off Houston. If you have some interest, talk to me and Ford, get more information. Don't just get completely caught up in TMT and all these other super interesting industries.
Shout out
But yeah,
TMT.
look into energy. Talk to me and Ford, and
Yeah.
yeah.
Where can they find you?
LinkedIn,
Like
email,
email,
what?
Yeah,
What's your
LinkedIn,
email?
you'll be able to find. I think my email's in LinkedIn.
It's
This
on
is
the
Jackson Late and
follow-
Ford Johnson, by the way.
Yeah. You can
But-
find Ford on the TS website.
Yeah, and also just like reach out to us because we want people to like do Houston.
Yeah.
Because we had one person last year, 2 to 3, I think 3, maybe I don't know. We're getting positive direction of
Yeah.
There you
kids.
go.
Awesome.
So it's like let's get more. So reach out
Do
to
it.
us. Thanks for having
Well,
us too.
All right. Sounds
that's
good.
Thank you
that's a
guys.
wrap
That's a
for today.
Let's do it.
Hey.